And now we're going to welcome Michaela. There she is. Hello. Now you really look like me today with the glasses.
Oh, I didn't have that going.
And we had another question real quick. It said, hi, how to find the good person to understand a company you want to work for. You know what? Contact me on LinkedIn. And first of all, connect to both Catherine and I. Catherine Byers-Breed will drop her LinkedIn into the comments. Connect to she and I. That's a one-on-one kind of question. Reach out to me after the show. I will definitely be glad to give you some advice on that. So connect to me, Catherine McCord, connect to her, and also connect to this crazy lady that's sitting next to me, Michaela. So real quick, Michaela. So you're a much sweeter person than me. We've established that over the years. And you also, because of your degree and all of that, you certainly have had to talk about sexual harassment and things like that over time. So what would you do if someone who is not your boss will not quit asking you out and or harassing you? What would your take be?
Well, I've actually had this experience before at a company, and honestly, what y'all discussed, sort of that chain of command, is exactly what I did. I took it to my boss. Well, honestly, I sought consultation first, and I spoke to some people that I knew. My mother does HR, mom does HR, and so I spoke with her. So get some consultation, but honestly, I did exactly what y'all discussed. I went to my boss. Well, first I spoke to the person and tried to resolve it there. Did not work. So I then went to my boss. And if that hadn't worked, if you have a boss, person in leadership who is not being a leader, then you would take it to HR.
Yes.
Then, yeah, that's how I see it.
And by the way, guys, that is exactly what our mother would tell you to do too, is to follow that, who is an HR professional, has been for many, many years, to take that chain of command, because then it lets them know that this person is not stopping. And yes, it really does need to be dealt with. It gives them a pattern and something to really work with. Whereas if you come to them the very first time something happens, it's kind of, unless it's very severe. If it's very severe, go straight to HR. Do not wait. Make sure that you are safe and that type of thing first and foremost. But if it's something more minor, like they just ask you out, don't go to HR because somebody asked you out once. Okay, that's ridiculous. Wait, tell them no, and then do the chain of command. That's your best bet. Okay, so Michaela, you are here for a whole other subject, happier topic. We're going to get happy here.
Well, I thought that was part of it, is the issues in the workplace. So I'm fine with
that. Yeah. So, but let's talk about my favorite topic. So one of the things that Michaela and I are both very, very passionate about is having a healthy work environment, right? And having a happy work environment. That's something everybody wants. And a lot of companies work very hard to establish. And I had a client a while back, when my first clients, when I started branching into recruiting and merchant services, called Payscape, wonderful company. And they allowed dogs in the office. In every one of their locations, they had dogs in the office. And I think one cat. I think there was a cat in there somewhere too. So he was a pretend dog. He was just, he had an identity crisis. So so that kind of thing can really be levitating, and a lot of people have mixed feelings on animals in the workplace. But I wanted to ask you your opinion as somebody who has majored in psychology, is now majoring in counseling. What do you think?
Well, I have decidedly mixed reviews on mixed feelings, because I love animals. That's what I do with my counseling, is I really want to specialize in animal assisted therapy, as you well know. And I'm actually, fun fact, I'm actually starting that for the first time this next week with the therapy dog that I have. He was cleared to come to work with me. So
yay!
Doing that. My first of all, the good part. Let's talk about what would be very beneficial. First of all, that's dogs have been proven in multiple, almost really countless studies to have a significant correlation between reduction of stress and just dogs in general, and having a relationship with dogs, and having animals in general around, but especially dogs. So having dogs in the workplace then would significantly reduce stress. And then I would guess, and you may be able to speak on this since you work with Payscape, but I would expect to see a lot of increase in work, really.
Yes, and you do. And I actually know I did this with a team of mine. I built out a whole recruiting team in Miami, and I would bring in the dogs, and sometimes I would let other people bring in theirs too. I would say, yeah, go ahead and bring them in. We would have the most productive days because people would stop more and take those little breaks, and they were more relaxed. They weren't so stressed out, and production would actually skyrocket. Having these little four-legged creatures wandering around. I can't have like a yippy dog or something if you got to be on the phone. That's kind of counterproductive.
Yeah, that's one of the concerns I would mention, as well as just having how well trained are the animals. That's the other concern.
Well, right. But overall, I give it 5 stars.
Well, yeah,
I love it.
If it works and you don't have yappy dogs and you do have dogs who are well behaved, and here's the thing. The one thing that I would mention is that something that could work if you're worried about people bringing their own personal dogs in for that exact reason. There are so many therapy dog teams. Pet Partners is a national organization, and they have branches.
Keep talking.
Yeah, that's fine. And they have branches in most cities, especially major cities. So you could easily bring a branch of Pet Partners and just have a therapy dog team come in and visit your workplace. That would be something that would be.
All right. So what I did when I just got up is I went and got a little animal. Hello, this is Livy. This is Olivia Bear Kitty Cat. And she has always been part of the show. Just most people don't know it. She's always here sitting with me, hanging out. My dog has joined the show several times, of course. And Livy works with me every day. She hangs out. She's part of some of my meetings. She's very opinionated. She has a lot of very fascinating things to say during my meetings.
It makes me feel calmer just seeing an animal. It really does. Even just putting Livy on the screen, I'm like, oh, she just looks soft.
She is, and she's always and she tends to know when to come over and get her pets. She just knows mommy needs a break, but hello, mommy needs some relaxation, that kind of thing. As you know, and as I've talked about a little bit on the show, I have a seizure disorder. And I also have a dog. He's not in here with me at this very moment, but that is trained. Well, not really trained. It's actually his instinct to come stand next to me and help me out whenever I'm having an episode or about to have an episode. And he just understands. Oh, and yes, Siamese cats are my favorite too, Dawn. Thank you. We had a comment. And so having him around is very helpful for me, and is something that has become just part of my everyday existence. So these little guys, I know a lot of people kind of want to think about more traditional ways to up culture, but I want to take this time to encourage everybody. I've seen it help workplaces. I've seen the difference that animals can make. Really consider having an office pet, even if it's just one. It's a really, really good idea. Ooh, please. She tried to take off my headphones.
But yeah, no, honestly, please consider that option. Even, like I said, even if you're just bringing one therapy dog in a day, I remember before COVID hit, and I was still able to go out with my therapy dog and visit places. There were times that we'd actually be sent to other places than the main hospital. There are sort of branches that don't see patients. They just sort of work in an office setting. And we went and saw them. And oh my gosh, they got so excited, and they told us how happy they were. It really makes a huge difference. And I can't imagine being able to have just a therapy dog there every day for people.
Or even once a week. Just something. Yeah. Something that people look forward to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what else? You were going to talk to us today. You were pretty excited about your topic today. So what information do you have for us today?
As far as more about animals, or just issues in the workplace in general? Okay.
Workplace in general.
Because honestly, I got on pretty early, and I was listening to Kat and everything she said. And honestly, what a practical conversation and just phenomenal resource. I was highly impressed. And a lot of what I heard, especially when I first got on, was politics in the workplace. And
don't do it.
Yeah, and you're talking about problems in the workplace. I think you've got to address workplace politics. And I think that anytime you have, especially multiple leaders, so multiple
Mhm.
people in leadership positions, you're going to have political conflicts because
Yes.
what you have are people conflicting to achieve power. And
And when you say political, I just want to be clear. You're not talking about external, like countrywide politics. You're
no,
talking about company politics.
oh yeah, I'm talking about even just like little, dog daycare centers or something
Hmm.
that can have multiple leaders and there's political conflicts, or even big corporations have
Hmm.
political conflicts in them.
Yes.
Um, and so that's what I'm talking about, just the whole range, the whole spectrum. And the issues and the division that can create. Because I don't like the word shouldn't. I really don't. However, I'm going to say that leaders should not engage in political type issues because it detracts from the whole point of being a leader. Um,
100%.
and if you can't tell by my inflection, I'm extremely passionate about this topic. Um, it does. It creates a lot of division where leaders are supposed to create unity in order
Hmm.
to perpetuate workplace production.
Yes.
Leadership is supposed to be a very selfless position. However,
Yes.
what I've seen a lot, and the stories that I've heard from multiple locations, and what I know you've seen a lot, Catherine, are leaders who are selfish and have a lot of self-centeredness. And I'd love to know what you've seen and like what that creates. And what do you think what that
on
creates?
on the positive side, I'm actually going to start on a positive here. One of the best managers I've ever known is actually now my COO, Joel. You know him very,
Mhm.
very well.
Well,
And yeah, just a little bit. And he always did this thing where he would go out and sit with his people on the
mhm.
floor, no matter what else he had going on. He would go sit with them and listen. And if he heard a problem, he'd go walk over and how can I help? What can I do?
There you go.
If he knew somebody was behind, he would start helping them with their tasks. Because why? It's going to help the whole group if he does that. And he led them in a way that was from the front and very much an attitude of servitude. And what can I do to make
Yeah.
your lives better? And that was one of the best examples I ever saw of management. And his team loved him. And by the way, followed him. He had people that followed him to multiple jobs that just same people just kept going.
Well, of course they did.
Um,
Leaders are
yeah,
supposed to hold a lantern. They're supposed to
yeah,
be at the front leading other people. And that
yes,
means if someone falls in your team, you go back and help them. You
yes,
don't just keep moving forward or say, or like, oh, good Lord, reprimand them.
yeah.
I mean, if you have an employee who is obviously like just way behind and you've tried and tried and tried, that, it's still, you don't want to be crappy about it. But, you do want to
Sometimes
address
you just got to make a decision, and that's okay.
that's
but
part of
um,
this.
but yeah, and but I've also seen a lot of people that a lot of managers, and one in particular, in fact, I will give a very specific example that anytime, 'cause one of the jobs of managers is to filter, right? So whatever's coming up from the executive team, they filter that down to their team and they
Mhm.
give that information.
Right.
But especially in a smaller company, because entrepreneurs, and I know because I am one, can get very passionate and sometimes blow up because everything is on their shoulders, right? That's not for the employees to have to deal with. Okay. The employees should never have to deal with that. This particular manager would just go tell the employees all the things that the entrepreneur just said and scare the crud out of them. And then when they were slow and dragging, never went out on the floor to help, never did anything. It was a sales team. When the sales went away, when the leads went away, it's just like, he just make excuses. He just go to, oh, well, they can't because they don't have leads. Never thought to try to find new leads or never thought to
Mhm.
try to train his people a different way to get the business in. It was just sitting there. And so it was just ridiculous. It was just a complete lack of servitude, like you said.
Well, and that's why it's so important to invest appropriate time in finding good leadership. And that is
Yes.
an investment. I know it is,
Mhm.
and it's worth it.
Yes.
You can that is something that you cannot sacrifice is your leadership team.
100%. And you also should not promote somebody just because they were good at the past job. Okay. That's ridiculous. Just because, and folks, I'm going to tell you this too. because a lot of candidates need to hear this too. Just because you're the top performer does not mean that you should move to management. Those are two completely different skill sets. Now, you should be given a raise. You should be promoted in some way, shape, or form, maybe like a team lead position, something like that, or a senior type position. But just because you're good at one job does not mean that you will be good at management. Not the same thing.
Yeah, I heavily agree with that. I know I actually sort of spaced there for a second because I was like, there's something else I wanted to talk about. And it sort of goes with what we were discussing. And it's like one of the other, I actually looked up, like, I had some ideas of like issues in the workplace. I wanted to address workplace politics, but there was something else that came up that I wanted your opinion on. Okay. And that is interpersonal conflict in the workplace. That was one of the leading issues. In fact, I think it was the leading issue in the workplace. Like things like communication problems, gossip.
Yes, bullying, that is the number one. And you are 100%. It's the number one problem in the workplace today. In terms of employee relations, and people think employee relations is an employee to the boss or an employee to the company. No, a lot of employee relations is relating to each other, right? So first, and yes, Ira, one of the best things about working remote is less office drama. 100% with you on that. That's part of why my whole team is remote. But no, it's that's so true. And a lot of it is that you need to give each other grace. Okay, like Kat and I were talking about, give each other grace. Have an understanding that maybe what that person did that rubbed you wrong, maybe it was just a misunderstanding, and just take a second, breathe. Yeah. Put yourself in their shoes. Sit down with the manager. Tell your manager, you know what? I don't need you to say anything, but just kind of be here and bring that person in and just have a conversation and just say, hey,
absolutely.
And just have a facilitator. Gossip, things like that.
But I do.
Okay. Real quick on this gossip issue, because I get real tired of the gossip issue. that was a pet peeve of mine as a manager. And I will kind of tell on myself here. I didn't handle it the best. I was kind of brutal about how I handled it. Because I would just tell people, if you do it, you're gone. Because it's so toxic and it's so painful, and it is something that will break a person's spirit down. And most of the time it's completely unfounded. So just don't.
Well, and one thing that leaders, I'm going to go back to leaders real quick here. One thing leaders can do is build your team. Do some team building exercises, teamwork. I'm not talking about the corny, like, oh, let's do a trust fall. Please don't.
Please don't. I will fall.
I can just feel the eye rolls happening for the people who are watching. Don't do that kind of stuff. Like I was talking to my boyfriend the other day, and he was saying that one of the things that he works for a phenomenal company. And one of the things that they do is they all just go out to lunch. Like their managers and leaders will just say, hey, let's all just go out to lunch and do this. And just have lunch together. Because doing even simple things like that, having office parties, because you're going to start building relationships with people. So that's just one thing.
All about relationships. And real quick, I want to bring on, because our next guest is Ira Bowman. I don't want Michaela to go away yet. Let's bring on Ira also.
Thank you for letting me stay.
Yes, you can stay for a little bit. So Ira, let's get. And by the way, guys, my screen is frozen, so I don't know if a guest is on or not. So you guys are going to have to say something to me, so I know if you're here.
Yeah, he's here.
All right, hi, Ira.
Just so everybody knows, it's Bowman, but
Bowman. I know. I keep saying Bowman for some reason. I'm sorry, but yes, it's Ira Bowman.
Look, I mess up stuff all the time. It's funny because my wife was listening. We share an office, and she was listening. She's like, Bowman. Yeah, I get a lot.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? I had an employee that's how they pronounced it. So I guess that's just,
I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio for a few years. And in the phone book, there was 2.5 pages of Bowmans or Bowmans or however you want to say it. But you know, I'm sure that there was both, because like you spell it a million different ways. And
that's why everyone had to be unique, because there's just so many of them.
I want you guys, the audience, to look at the variety of glasses that we have. Just
I know.
Yes. We're a good-looking group.
Look, no sexual harassment here, ladies. I was watching the show too, so But the glasses are phenomenal. I really like the variety.
We did good.
We've got the classic. We've got the contemporary as can be.
Mm-hmm.
Although I was on, in full disclosure, my wife took 3 of my kids to get their eyes checked yesterday. So I was buying glasses last night. Some of the contemporary stuff is like way out there. Like,
yeah,
more like something
it is
a basketball game than I don't know.
Yeah, I like my more like old school classic. Look, I don't know what happened when she
gone. That's okay.
Yeah, Catherine's like, I'm trying to think of like what she brought you on for. Oh, hi, there she is.
I wanted to get my screen working again.
I don't remember the question.
What do we do?
I quit you. I didn't want to listen to Ira anymore.
I answer questions live twice a week. So I'm like, I don't need to do show prep for this. I'll handle it on the fly.
No. Yeah, but you're good. You're good. So Ira, I want to ask you something. Sure. I have a question for you because we're talking about this workplace drama and all this. And you're like me. You like the remote thing because then you don't have to deal with all that kind of thing. But when you are in the office, and by the way, guys, I'm going to throw this out there. Ira is one of like the biggest hearted people. Like he may literally die one day because he's overworked himself giving back to other human beings. Like one of his whole jobs is stuff he does for free for people, just helping people. And that's Project Help You Grow, and totally check it out, by the way, if you're a job seeker, trust me.
It's not a great return on investment for money, but for, people call it karma. They call it reap what you sow. I heard what you guys were talking about with the religion. I get it, but people have different ways that they express that.
Right.
I believe if you do good things are more likely to happen to you. So that's one of the reasons I like to help.
That's
people.
right. Right. But so anyway, the point is you're a good dude.
Thank you.
So when you're in the workplace, and there's just this toxicity happening.
I've had this issue as an employee and as a manager.
So as a manager, how did you handle it?
So
as a manager,
usually when it's the management, when I'm the management and I'm really a referee, I tell people all the time, okay, in full disclosure, I have 8 children, so you don't have to worry about me asking you out on a date.
8.
So people used to ask me all the time, they're like, okay, what made you better? Was being a parent more helpful in being a manager, a successful manager, or was it the other way around?
Ooh.
Did a manager help you be a better parent? And I think that actually there's a bit both ways, okay? So for office drama, especially if it's in my department, I was pretty good at weeding it out. It was a little bit harder. Yeah, out. We could talk about how. But when it's someone in my department and somebody outside of my department, then it's much more challenge. And when it's 2 people outside of my department, then we just try to kind of like.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't HR. So I didn't have
right.
I'm talking about, I was a sales manager and a sales director, right? And then for a while, I was in charge of a sales or service team as well.
So how did you do it?
I had people,
when you're in your team. Let's be real. That's when you're in your team.
Both in my team, and I think that's probably the most helpful thing for people watching. So in my team, usually because salespeople are peacocks, right? But there's different types of salespeople. So there's introverts, extroverts, and this is an issue that I had. I had an introvert and an extrovert. And the introvert thought the extrovert was basically a giant peacock butthole. It was a little bit too cocky, like, hey, I'm the number one. And he was like, I'm looking at my numbers and I'm looking at your numbers and I'm kicking your butt, dude. You know what I mean? So there was friction there because sales is competitive. So what I did is I sat him down and I said, look, actually, both of you have your strengths and both of you have your weaknesses. And when I'm trying to figure out which prospect to give somebody to, I look at how I think you're going to gel personality-wise. But I said, let's air this out. I know you both want to be top, and that's great. I don't want you either to lose that, because the minute you lose your competitive edge or desire to be great in sales, you're going to probably fall, right? You have to push hard. And at the end of every month, we start over, which is hard psychologically for a lot of people to deal with. But I said, look, you guys you don't have to be friends, but you should respect. And that's what we did.
Yes.
Professional strengths. So let's look at them. I'm going to tell you as your boss, I respect both of your skill sets. Person A, here's what I respect about you. Person B, here's what I respect about you. Now I said, can you guys look at each other and list one thing that you respect about the other person? They did that. And then before we left, we were all laughing. We went from animosity and serious. Like, I used to think they might fist fight. Both of these dudes were bigger than me. I'm 5'8". I'm not a big guy. Okay. So I'm like, I don't want to be in the middle of this mountain fight. You know what I mean? Like,
and no, it's so true, but I like that. Michaela, what do you think about how he handled that?
I think that you'd make a great family therapist.
With 8 kids, I think so.
My family.
Well, it's really unfortunate that in the workplace, we've got to do things like have conversations with people about how to just respect each other. Unfortunately, we do. That's something that has to consistently happen, unfortunately. And what went through my mind is I remember when I was in my family therapy course, the theory I presented on, actually one of the things they would do is actually the guy who developed the theory would actually have foam bats that they could just beat each other with.
Oh, I like that. Wait, can we put that in an office setting from now? Wiffle bats. Just
that would probably not be good.
It would not be good. It would not.
Nerf guns now.
There you go.
That could be.
I did that.
Those don't.
I did that. No, I did that.
About
pillows, because you feel like you're in more control of pillows. You can
no. Pillows are not good because then you could knock off glasses and stuff like that. Don't do that.
Oh, the Nerf guns then.
I did. You know those little things where you can squeeze their tummy and it's like a little animal or something. You squeeze it and a little foam ball shoots out of it. There's no way that's going to hurt anybody. I got you one. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
There's no way you could shoot that at a newborn baby and it's not going to hurt them. Don't. It's kind of rude, but don't do that. But you could. The point is, it's not going to hurt. And so maybe that's the kind of thing you could have, as a therapy tool for your staff to just shoot that. I did that. I got one of those for one of my staff members who was having a problem with this guy who actually trained her, and he just got, like you said, Ira, he got real competitive with her and just real intense with her.
That's more common than not.
Oh yeah.
Press it or not. As soon as somebody gets any recognition, everybody else is like, why not me? Yep. So first of all,
managers spread it around.
Right. Employee of the month, you win it 11 times. The 12th time somebody else gets it, you're going to be pissed that it.
Yep. 100%. So yeah, I got them I got the foam ball for her. Whenever he would be grumpy with her, she'd go shoot him and it made him laugh. And then and he would realize
for them. I was very impressed with, all joking aside, I really was very impressed with the way that you discussed bringing their strengths. This is what I respect about you. This is what I respect about you, and bringing those strengths together and helping them see the humanity in each other and seeing that it's not black and white. It's not that he's just bad or she's just bad. It's that we're human. And I think that was a great way to handle that situation.
I deal with this with my competitors. So I run Bowman Digital Media. That's how I make my living. We make visual communication tools, websites, videos, that kind of stuff. There's a million other companies that people can go to. I run all kinds of events. So on Tuesdays, I have speed networking with Mike and Ira. We have other media companies, the owners of these companies on, and I give them the spotlight, and I even encourage them to put their links to their website, which is my competition, so everybody can see them and check them out. And people are like, privately, why do you do that? Why do you even let them in the room? Like, you know why? Because they offer something different than me. There's plenty of potential customers out there, and there's plenty of vendors, and I'm not so insecure that I can't have somebody else say, hey, we offer video creation, or we're a WordPress developer, or whatever. It's like, that's fine, advertise it. But it catches people off guard because they're so used to the I've got to protect what's mine. And I saw so many people that I managed with that mentality. It's like, no, just work on yourself. Work on being better yourself.
I am highly competitive. I am brutally highly competitive, but I've always tried to at the same time encourage other people. I've trained other people how to do what I do. that type of thing. And that competitive nature is still there with me, but I try to make it fun now and kind of silly as opposed to the like aggressive thing because ultimately, guys, you're all working towards the same goal. And that's what you have to remember.
Well, I think
same goal.
Ultimately, people have to remember you're going to work to make a living, right? So you're not there. Like if the person next to you is making $1 an hour more, this is why we don't advertise what people get paid, right? But if they're making $1 an hour more than you, really, what does that matter to you? As long as your company can afford to pay your check, whatever you agreed to work for, you should be fine with it. But people get so competitive, like results, like promotions, like recognition, awards, whatever. I just think that management needs to help do some pressure releases. I don't know that pillow fights and shooting people but I'll tell you one of the things that I would do. I would try to praise them all the time in the public meetings. So when we had our sales meetings, try to compliment them. And I didn't like say, okay, this is my time to compliment you now, but I would work it. It's amazing what a compliment will do to help people. Yes. And I don't know if you noticed, I like to use humor. I'm a humor guy because humor helps to lighten the mood. And also sometimes I would tell my employees, I would let the owners know, like, there are days I'm going to tell them to go home. And I'm going to say, you've got your work done for the day. You're having a bad day. Why don't you just go home? And they appreciate that. Because sometimes we have life pressures that are outside of the work and they're affecting us at work. And you can lose the whole room because of one bad apple. Yes. So sometimes you just like, you know what? I'm happy with what you've done today. Why don't you take the rest of the day off? And the first time I told the owner I was going to do that, they looked at me cross-eyed, like, what do you mean? I'm paying that guy. Oh, yeah. No. I used to do mental health days. I used to tell my employees, you get 2. And as long as you're not like leading a presentation that day or something like that, you can take it at any day that you want. Just call me and go, we're not feeling it. It's not going to happen today. Yeah. and just don't come in. I do a show at 6 a.m. on Wednesdays and it's too early. And I'm like, today my eyes didn't even want to open and I should have. Yes, you should have just taken a mental health day. I'm telling you, it's imperative. And the grief process is another thing and stress and all that. And so one thing we talked about earlier, don't talk about politics, like external, like U.S. politics or your country's politics at work, right? Don't do that. Yeah, you don't want to talk about the things that are going to divide people. Now, I will say this: as you become friends with people, and this is where there's a little bit of a gray area. One-on-one session. Like as a manager, I'm not bringing up politics or religion at all. Now, if you start a conversation with me privately, I might talk with you a little bit about it. But if you're coworkers, if you're peers, so you're even ground, right? No manager subordinate type thing going on. Somebody says, hey, I noticed that you read your Bible at lunch. And they want to talk to you about that. Me personally, I would do that. Right. But I'm not going to as the manager, you were talking about somebody started the day out with a prayer. Yeah, that's not good. Don't do that. That's a great way to get sued. It is first and foremost. You can totally get sued. They'll sue you for breathing out here, right? So you got to be super careful, but you can't do that as a representative of a company. Right. I mean, there are companies, if it's a Christian organization or something like that, you could do it. But for the most part, I wanted to get both y'all's opinions. I'm going to start with Michaela on this one. So we very vehemently said, do not, as a company, discuss these things. Okay, just do not do it. It is not smart. You can get sued. It doesn't make your employees feel comfortable. Don't do it. However, there are a lot of things going on politically right now that have people scared. And we're not going to talk about whether it's valid or invalid or anything like that. Just, it is fact. Okay. And I think that's always true. There's always something. But right now, it's a little bit more like in our faces, right? It's like, it's right here. And part of that's because of COVID. We're all just sitting around staring at the screen all day. That's not helping, right? But we're all staring at Ira and Catherine talking all day. But it is true. So I think my thought is that it makes sense for companies to not talk about the issues specifically, but to say, hey, if you need to
vent. If you do need to talk to somebody, I know one company, I thought this was genius. They brought in a psychologist and just had the psychologist there and was like, if you need to take a break and go talk to them, everybody here is entitled to 30 minutes a day. Here you go. Go do it. Or you know, as much as you can get the appointment.
Earlier, Catherine, you were talking about mental health days. That's one of the best things you can do for a company, as well as if you can't bring in a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist,
right?
You can always find some, just find some to suggest and say, hey, here's someone you can go see. Here's the price ranges. They'll work with you on a sliding scale, because a lot of us do. You can use, I mean, there's so many interns who are desperate for hours right now. You can always do and bring in low cost counseling for your coworkers. Catherine, I think that's a great idea.
And not just real quick, Ira, and just not just that, but also giving people mental breaks and saying it's okay to say, I am so grumpy today. Like you were talking about that person that was having the bad day earlier, Ira, you gave them the day off. Giving people that. And folks, you need to also take responsibility for this too. If you're in a job and you're the employee and you're having a bad day or you're grieving because somebody passed or something like that, know when you need your breaks and ask for them. But Ira, what are your thoughts on allowing for mental health type breaks?
So, depending on the size of the company, it would be really tough, Michaela, for them to bring in, unless they could find somebody for free, which is cool. But it's hard for a lot of people. They don't even know where to look.
Well, right. Yeah.
I found a guy, now he's my connection on LinkedIn now. His name is Professor Pete Alexander. He has a website. I put it in the show comments if you want to put it live. But what it is, it's hundreds, not just one. It's hundreds of 2 to 3 minute videos that are stress relief tips. And all kinds of different, there's some exercise, breathing, mental, but you know what I mean? It is amazing. He did one today. He posted on LinkedIn about listening. When you're listening and not cutting people off or just, waiting to say the next thing, but actually listening, that shows people respect. It is amazing what would happen in corporate America if peers would listen to peers, if managers would listen to peers, if owners would listen to their staff, just to feel like you've been heard.
Yes.
It's amazing validation for people. It lets them feel like, okay, even if nothing changed, I didn't change a dang thing because I can't, but I just heard you. And I would bring people into my office all the time, once a week, and we would have a conversation. And the door was closed. Closed door meeting. I said, in this room, you can say anything you want. You could even cuss me out. No reprimands, no write-ups. I said, the minute that the door is open, you're going to show me respect, because you're respecting my title, not necessarily me, the person. But in this room, when the door is closed, you can let it all out. And I wanted them to if they needed to vent. Because that pressure cooker, even if you just let the steam out, what I mean? It's not going to pop. So
it's the same. And I did a similar thing too. I would tell people that come in, sit down, vent for 15 minutes, and then go back to work and just get it done.
I do want to say one thing though, Ira. You said that you couldn't change someone that way, but actually what I want to say to you is, that actually does.
I'm saying that you couldn't change the policies that they're frustrated about. For example,
I'm going to give you a compliment actually, because what you're doing by just listening to somebody is supporting them. And a lot of times people don't have that support to just be listened to non-judgmentally.
See, that's what I think it could fix corporate America.
Yes.
It could fix everywhere. But if you had more owners listening, if you had more HR teams listening, if you had more directors, VPs, I mean, talking about people that usually, and I hate to say it, but they feel like they're too good to talk to you. You're walking by them and they don't even look you in the eye and say, hey, So I learned this. a long time ago. Publicly praise, criticize privately. So in those meetings I was talking about, and in even that setting where I have two people that are having an issue, I'm not going to criticize either one of them. In that setting, there's three. Now in that one-on-one meeting later that week, I might have said, hey, you could have been a little nicer to Joe or Jack or Steve or Betty, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you do it one-on-one and you listen. I like that key, listen. And we're going to have to wrap this session up because we got to move on to the next guest. But guys, that was wonderful, and I think that it's a important topic to talk about, listening and acknowledging, that people are all human and giving each other grace and all that. So thank you both for coming on and talking to us today about these things. Bye. Thank you.